Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and this week I'm tackling the Joe Dirt movie car. As always, if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. So I've had this project for quite some time, and when I was getting ready to tackle it, somebody else had done one, and I didn't want to do one too soon afterwards. But that was like 6 months ago, and as with all my commissioned projects, which this is, I am so far behind it's not even funny, and I apologize to everyone that I owe cars to. Things have been kind of crazy, and it was crazy before the virus, and it's even worse now. My schedule's all over the place, and you would think I would have more time, but I don't. So, anyways, I had this green one that I had taken apart for something a long time ago. It was missing the rear wheels, and I don't know what I was going to do with it, to be honest with you. So I took apart the other one just in case I thought I might need some parts, and I never ended up using it, but I did take it apart. So I'm going to be taking some creative liberties here to a degree. I have some green light wheels that I have from multiple kits. One of them is a solid steel wheel for the front, and then I've got the only Kragers I had are these real deep dish ones. Obviously a little wider than the normal that would have been on the movie car, but again, I'm taking some liberties, and I'm sure everybody will be busting my balls because it's not 100% accurate. Feel free. I'm doing what I can here. So I have to make an axle tube for the rears, and I have to do that because of the way I have to position them. Obviously, they're a very thick and wide wheel, and if you can tell on the wheel well openings on these Daytonas, it's not a full round, so I have to have it jacked up high enough to clear. So I used a drill, and if you look at the movie car, it's missing the scoops on each fender, and one headlight is kind of all askew. So I used a drill to drill them out, and now I'm using a burring tool off my Dremel to kind of square them off a little bit, make them look somewhat square. I mean, it can only do so much. It's a small area. I use the file to kind of finish it off and get it as close as I can. Little areas I have a hard time seeing, so I do the best I can. And then I'm using some styrene to fabricate the headlight, which is going to be popping up from the nose cone, which is a little tricky because, again, it's really small. And what I decided to do is make it in two pieces and glue one to the other on an angle so that when I glue it inside the hole, it's popped up a little bit and just a little bit on an angle. Again, it's not perfect, but it looks really good, I think. There might be another way to do this. This just happened to be the way that I decided to go. Again, it took a little bit of finesse, trimming, fitting, just to try to get the right fitment because it's such a small area. You can see I'm using the tweezers there, and I'm dropping it everywhere. It's about where I started throwing shit. So I stripped the car, and I'm just using a Dremel here. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm just wire brushing it, and because it's a rough paint job to begin with, normally I would use the Dremel tool with the wire wheel. Then I would go with some Scotch Brite, and I'd go crazy. But it really didn't matter on this. So I primered it with some Rattle Can Tamiya fine gray primer. Now I got my splash paints. I'm using butternut yellow, which I think was about as close as I could get to what the color of the car was. I'm going to use Petty Blue for the two front fenders. And I'm going to skip a lot of the painting aspect because it's pretty boring. So you can see here how I got it masked off. And magically, here we go. And again, everything's painted. I'm not weathering right now. I'm just getting everything going. Got the doors primered, and I'm going to do the rear spoiler and the splash paints jet black. And then I've got my Vallejo rust and chipping effects kit, which if you look at the movie car, the top surfaces are all rust. So I use a varying, like dark to light to lighter, to a little yellower, just to try to get some variance in the actual rusting effects. It's a pain in the neck painting that through a spray gun. You gotta kind of thin it out a little bit with some water, but it works out all right. And once I get that, now I can go back into my tried and true method of my Citadel paints, and I'm using the texture paint, Typhus Corrosion, and then I go back over it again with the orange Rise of Rust, which actually gives it a nice textured rust effect. And I pretty much do this over all the areas that I can, based on, again, the pictures I could find on the Google machine for what you can see. I'm kind of flipping through there, just trying to get all different sides. And with the textured paint, you just got to dab it on. You're not really painting it on. And once it dries, then you can pretty much do what you want with it. But it takes a little while to dry. It's not like the regular paints. And here I'm doing the inside of the rims, because if you pay attention, they're pretty rusty in the movie. So I'm putting the same effect on those and the front ones as well, just to try to keep everything semi-consistent. And I might have overdid it a little bit. Again, I took a little creative license on areas that I really didn't have any good pictures of or good reference. Same thing with the interior. I like white interior, so I kept it white, but I'm using the Agrath Earthshade, which is a brown wash, so it's got a very grungy, dirty look to it. And I'm also going to do it on the actual car itself, and it just knocks the sharpness of the paint off. The splash paints are a base coat, clear coat system, so it dries, I wouldn't say flat, but a more of a matte finish. So obviously the car has been weathered, it's outside, it's a piece of crap, which I would kill to drive anything like this, even remotely. I actually wouldn't touch it. I'd leave it just the way it is. But the paint obviously wouldn't have been fresh or new or clean to begin with. So the brown wash just knocks it down a little bit, takes the edge off, in my opinion. So again, creative license, a little bit of a little trial and error. I've done it before on some different vehicles for like Gaslands. It seems to work okay, so I decided to go with it. The more you do of these projects, the more, you just kind of learn what works and what doesn't work. But every project, usually you'll try something new. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I'm at the stage where, honestly, it doesn't matter to me. Sometimes it works. If it doesn't work, then I learned something. So, if I do the same crap all the time, I'll never really expand my skill set. And that really doesn't do me any good. I do this so that I can, because I have fun, but I also want to learn. And if I'm doing the same thing every time, it gets kind of boring. So anyways, I'm just putting a couple coats of that on, based on, obviously it stains. So the more you put on, the darker it gets. So I'll do darker spots in certain areas. And then at this point, now comes the Rise of Rust. Now that the Typhus Corrosion has completely dried, and again, you can put that on very light and layer it. The more you brush, the heavier it becomes, and you don't want it to be it's very orangey, but when you put it over the Typhus Corrosion, it looks like rust. So you don't have to be heavy on it. You can always add more. It's a pain in the neck to brush more in and lighten it up if you put it too heavy. So just err on the side of caution if you're doing this on your own. If you're just watching, then you don't have to worry about it. But I like it. I think it works pretty good. So a shout out to Josh Taylor. If you're on the Outlaw Speed Shop group page, which is the custom diecast page, or Renegades and Hoodlums, he's on there a lot. He had sent me this a long time ago, as I stated, and we kept in contact, and he really didn't bug me too much on it, which he should have. But I want to give a shout out to him, because this was a project that I had already wanted to do, and I believe that's why I probably started taking the green one apart. So when he said it, it's like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this anyways. So big shout out to him. I appreciate the opportunity to do this for him. And it was a lot of fun. And again, it's a lot of creative freedoms, and interpretations of what you think might work and what might not work. And we all do our thing, and hopefully you guys like it. I'm sure you'll comment down below, and the normal 5 to 10 people that hate it within 30 seconds and not watch it will make sure you give me a thumbs down. So I'm looking forward to those as well. So anyways, the grand scheme of this thing was supposed to be, just a fun project. And aside from the headlight, I got to say, I really enjoyed doing this. And to be honest with you, the casting was very, very well done. I can't really bitch too much. I thought it was really nice. You can see here I'm putting on what's called, you can't really see it because it's just hard to film it, some Xandri dust, which is more like a dirt or a sand, and it gives that, you dried up mud look, which I use on a lot of my Gasland stuff, but it just adds just a little bit extra of a touch. And I've got these paint pens that I never use. I forgot I had a purple one because I was trying to find the right shade of purple. This one actually works pretty good. So instead of using a brush, which would have left marks, then I would have had to try to sand it, and I might have screwed up the whole thing. So I decided to use the paint pen. It actually worked really well. A little bright, but not too bad. I don't use them that often, but they are nice. So pretty much that's what I got. I chromed the bumper, painted the base black, rusted the bumper. There's the wheels. And, that's pretty much what I got. I like it. The windshield was already dirty because the casting was left out in the dirt. So I left that alone, so I didn't have to even weather the windshield. As always, the Wicked Pissa Jar. I started this when I had 12,000 subscribers. I'm at like 13,700 and some change. When I hit 14,000, I'm going to be giving the contents away to one subscriber. So some of these, obviously, if you've been following me, you've seen all these before. I update it every time I add, and I try to add at least one car a week. The only times I usually don't is if I do a special video or like the 4 Horsemen video. And this is totally independent of my Patreon page, where I give away 10 cars a month to a Patreon member, and I also give a custom that I built to a Patreon member as well. This is totally independent. This is for YouTube subscribers only, and again, you have to be a subscriber. But when I hit 14,000, I'll do a video, and I will have a random picker that will pick somebody that comments on that video to win the contents of all this. So there's quite a bit of stuff in there, and I'll be adding a little bit more, obviously. And the good news is Josh Taylor has said I can put this in the Wicked Pissa Jar, so this will be the first custom in the jar. I hope you guys like it. Make sure you comment down below, good, bad, indifferent, and stay tuned, to the whole thing. I've got video, pictures, glamour shots, whatever you want to call them. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.